Welcome, Alex. How was tennis this morning?
Very hot.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, we are gathered and we have a few guests from the United Methodist Church, and Helen is here, and so I would be happy to hand the mic over to you to introduce her.
Okay. Homes with Hope had its roots in Saugatuck Church. In the early 1980s, Westport started to have a growing homeless population. Many were sleeping in our church. Community leaders like the Reverend Ted Hoskins and Jim Gillespie persuaded the town to address it. I'm happy to welcome Helen McAlinden, who became President and Chief Executive Officer on January 1 of this year. Helen?
Thank you, Alexandra.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Pastor Alison Payton, for your warm welcome for me to join the congregation today. I'm delighted to get this opportunity to say hello to the congregation at Saugatuck Congregational Church. This isn't the way that I wanted to say hello. I thought I would be able to come in person to the church or to your service and say hello, but due to coronavirus, I guess we're all doing things differently. And I'm glad to get the opportunity today to tell you what we're doing at Homes with Hope to keep everybody safe. And firstly, let me begin by saying thank you to everybody. Over the years, this congregation, obviously Interfaith Housing and Homes with Hope wouldn't be in existence without the history that Alex shared. And I actually had a little bit of history pulled up to talk about, and Alex began talking about the beginning of how it all happened. As Alex mentioned, in the early 1980s, it became evident in Westport and Weston, like many other towns and cities, that there was a serious problem around homelessness, the people were often taking refuge in the pews of the churches and synagogues. And as a first step to helping this population of homeless, a group of citizens under the leadership of James Bacharach established the Westport Community Kitchen in 1982. And soon a group of dedicated volunteers were serving dinner each week to those in need. And that has continued on to today. And obviously we're doing it a little bit different due to the pandemic, but we're hoping that we get back to normal very soon. And because the churches and synagogues were among the first to become aware of the problem of homelessness, they led the initiative to find solutions. And as the members grew, the Reverend Theodore Hoskins, then the senior minister for Saugatuck Congregational Church, brought together people from Westport and Weston churches and Temple Israel, along with other concerned citizens, to seek ways to help the homeless. And then in 1984, Interfaith Housing was established, and that's turned into Homes with Hope today. The history began in an old firehouse on 6 Wilton Road, and later the town of Westport, through their generosity and willingness to help the efforts to make sure that nobody was homeless in the area, they made Gillespie Centre available. It first began with the men's shelter, and today we have a men's and a women's shelter. When the pandemic happened, we ended up very early in the pandemic moving the residents from the 3 shelters, Gillespie, which has the men's shelter, the women's shelter, Hoskins, and the Project Return, young ladies 18 to 24-year-olds, to hotels. We matched. The staff are wonderful. Our staff are all master level educated staff that work tirelessly to serve the mission. And we knew in the very beginning the only way to keep everybody safe, including our community volunteers, our staff, and the residents we serve, was to get the men firstly out of the dorm. And we have a dorm style shelter with 15 men all very closely together. So immediately we made arrangements to match up men by each and have them in rooms in the shelf in the hotel. So it worked out beautifully, and none of our residents from that group ended up getting COVID. They're all in the process of moving into houses in the community, permanent supportive housing, whether it's studio apartments, one bedrooms, or rooming houses, or whatever way we can have people move into permanent housing. And we follow the residents to wherever they are and help them to remain housed and get better solutions as time goes on. Obviously, a lot of our work is around employment, making sure that our clients get jobs or benefits if they're disabled, or whatever is needed. What's pretty unique is everybody has an individual service plan, and we make sure that the needs of each client is met individually. There's a lot of other unique things about Homes with Hope. I was blessed to get this job. It really aligns with my vision and my mission in life to support the homeless and to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-existent. And I am honored that I have such a great group of people in Westport that's behind Homes with Hope to support the mission. We have a wonderful board of directors that really work tirelessly on all different subcommittees to make sure that the mission is served in a very nice way. There also is many other programs that we have. We house over 100 people each night. And so we have housing in Norwalk and in Westport. And our support comes from all the local towns. I think what's very unique is that at nighttime, when the local community people come in to serve dinner, signing up on the calendar like many of you do, and I'm very thankful for that, because for us to remain in operation, we rely on the general public to help with food and donations in order to keep things going. A lot of agencies that do similar work do it on government money, and we rely heavily on philanthropy and donations from people in the community. So we also have an after-school program, and that's very unique, I think, because the children, when they come into the programs, and the families that are homeless, the staff who are all master's level help get the children incorporated into the schools. And we want to obviously make sure we keep up with the wonderful Westport public school system, and make sure the children are integrated in very well and privately. And we obviously keep all our clients to be confidential, and it means a lot to us that our children do very well. And we're seeing the outcomes now as we have children moving on to college, or young adults moving to college. And recently we had our stand-up event, and thank you to those of you who have supported that and continue to support us through this pandemic. And at the stand-up, one of the clients spoke about the different schools in Westport, the public school system that she went through, and that she's now graduating from UConn, and she's about to get a job. So this is what it's all about, just ending poverty through education and housing. And we supply the basic need of housing, and everything else happens from there. We have 37 units of supportive housing, and we're very proud of the people we serve and how they restore their lives after they come into the programs. That's a little taste of what we do, and if anybody has questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Helen. We're going to go ahead with questions, but I wanted to let folks know, because I did not mention at the beginning, that we are recording this as we have recorded the last two conversations. So just so you are aware of that, and we will share, therefore, the content of this Zoom conversation up on YouTube at the end. So questions for Helen? Larry, go ahead. If you could just lean in a little bit closer to the mic. Are you there? Yeah, I need you to be a little, unfortunately, your microphone doesn't have quite that distance. So we need you to be a little bit closer.
Yes.
There you go. Whoop. No, I'm not hearing you. It may be that your microphone is towards the center of your computer. Perhaps if you were a little bit more centered on your screen. We've heard you before. So sorry.
I never had this problem when I talk in Hollywood.
There you go. I heard that.
I was going to say,
There you
third, the Gillespie family, longtime members of our church, they were really one of the seed of this whole thing, along with Ted Hoskins. Jim Gillespie, two of them got the idea way back, and they were able to do a lot of hard work and so forth, and praying and politics and everything else. They pulled it together, and we should all honor those two men, along with the Gillespie family and all the others who really started this thing, which has turned out to be a real landmark in Westport and humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's one of the historians in our midst who remembers some of those details. Thanks,
Yeah.
Larry.
We have two complexes named after both. Very important.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Susie.
Helen, you mentioned that you were doing meals differently because of COVID. I wondered if you could say a little bit more about what you're doing, how that's working.
We have early on, we changed how we've been doing the meals just to keep everybody safe. And when when the residents had moved on to the hotel, we started using struggling restaurants and having food delivered, lunch and dinner, into Gillespie, and then the staff would take it down to the hotel. Now that we're beginning to take the clients back to Gillespie, we are beginning to start working on how we safely can integrate back, donated, having food packaged and brought back to Gillespie. Maureen, who works in our corporate office, does, incorporates how the sign-ins and all that is done. But currently we are still using, every 2 weeks we use a different restaurant and have been ordering food. We've been very lucky that a lot of people have been very generous in donating some money to us to assist with that. But at this point, it's become very, very expensive, and we really have to start thinking about getting back to the sign-in calendar and making sure that we keep everybody safe, obviously. So we're going to be doing bag lunches that people from congregations, from our faith-based gatherings, can sign up on the calendar again. To integrate it back, we're going to do it a little bit different. We'll have, maybe one group could do 1 day a week for a few weeks that way. And Maureen will be putting out a constant contact and we will also get in contact with all the faith-based gatherings to explain how we'd like to integrate back. But for now, and including next week, we are still using the restaurants, but it really has to come to an end soon because it's too expensive to do it this way.
I have a question about the education of the children during the pandemic. They're not able to go to the school, so how are you handling that?
Yeah, so we had their laptops set up for them early on so that they can, like every other child in Westport, do the school from home. And Westport is a unique town. I don't think every town is so generous in their public schools. The children were able to get laptops. The staff assisted the families with the internet connections, and if they didn't have money to have internet, it was connected for them. we alleviated all the barriers that would be to get the children to be able to do their school. We also had the community room at Powell Place, where the after-school program is. Safely in the beginning, we kind of worked with the children to make sure that they were all able to get online. So we had it all cleaned up and had children one at a time come in and talk to them with their parents on how, you know, they were doing. And everybody got pretty much in the first 2 weeks sorted out like everybody else. The children are doing really, really well. And they have, I don't know if any of you saw the wall down by the beach where they did a project and all got together and did this beautiful mural on a wall down by the beach. And they had a big picnic out in the lawn and we social distanced them, but it was great because they're all cooped up and like us all, especially the children, they need to get out and do things. So Lynn Abramson, who oversees that program, has been very creative in doing things. They did an organic garden at the back of Powell. They have been doing all sorts of different things, and we've been trying to keep them safe, and none of the children have got sick, and the parents are doing a great job in keeping the children safe as well. So I'm very proud of our residents, our children, and our staff. It's wonderful to see. Actually, there was one client at the hotel that did get COVID, but that was a person that the intakes are happening at the hotel now instead of coming into Gillespie. We had people come into the hotel, and one person did get COVID-19, but went to the emergency room, got treated. We had isolation rooms, and then after isolation period and retesting, that person ended up getting out and getting into housing.
Okay, thank you.
Helen, can you remind me where you shared with me a video about that mural project, and I want to link it. Did you send it to me, or where would I find it?
I will send you that. So that
I can pull it up right now if you just tell me. Is it public?
I don't think so. I think that it might be on Meigs Burroughs' website, but I will send you a link.
Okay.
It's Meigs Burroughs that did
If
it.
you drive down to Campo Beach, it's right there by the Minuteman statue.
Right.
Thank you, John.
You can't miss it.
It's
And
lovely.
There's a lovely short video. If I can find it while we're talking, I will post it. But it's even better to go see it in person. What's fun about the video is seeing the young people creating it. So
Craig Payton, I just sent it to everybody.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Craig. So check out that link that is now in your chat, and you can see a video of that mural being created. I've also posted the Homes with Hope website for your reference.
Allison, if I might just say a little bit about Helen.
Please, yeah.
Helen joined Homes with Hope on January 1st of this year, and we know that roughly 10 weeks later, that everybody's world was turned upside down, and Helen was thrust into a very challenging role, and I have to say that she has been extraordinary. We relied on her expertise. Her background is she came to Homes with Hope from the Connection. The Connection is the state's largest provider of personal services to homeless and those who are at risk. And in one of the reference checks that we did for Helen, when asked about her background and her strengths, the comment was made that you may not know Helen at first, but once you do, you will not forget her. She knows everybody. She knows how to get things done. She knows who might be available to provide funding for various programs. And I think she has done a remarkable job. The logistics of what has had to happen since COVID hit in moving the clients out of the shelters, making sure they got food, making sure the children were taken care of, required enormous cooperation between the town of Westport, the state of Connecticut, to make sure that these programs all work together, they follow the appropriate protocols, and importantly, they cost a lot of money, and the state, at least to this point, has been providing a lot of funding to make sure that the programs can continue and the people can remain safe and the children can be taken care of in the way they have. So it is quite a remarkable job done by all, but Helen deserves a lot of credit for her baptism under extraordinarily challenging conditions.
No kidding.
Thank you very much, John. You know what, John, as the chair of our board, has been instrumental on a daily basis. Poor John, I didn't think he was taking on so much or with me in the beginning, because daily I would call John and say, oh my God, you know, we have to keep the clients safe. What do you think of this idea or that? And he's been there supporting me all along, as well as a wonderful 18 people on our board of directors, and one nicer than the other. And as John said, the community, the Department of Housing, the state agencies, and all the faith-based gatherings and the people of Westport. It's been a great thing to see the support for the people that are less fortunate in our community. One thing that I have to say that I'm a little concerned about is as we move back to taking people back to Gillespie and all the shelters throughout Connecticut, the emergency homeless shelters all had to decompress, which means that where we had normally 15 people in the men's dorm, we have only going to be able to have 10 people. So we have repurposed and we have put in, it just got finished this weekend, and on Monday and Tuesday the last of the stuff comes in. So we had to buy all new furniture and dividers to go. Each bed now has 6 foot between the beds, and we have dividers either side. And it's been a lot of work to get this organized and has been a huge expense. But it will be worth it to see the clients come back. But on the other end, my concern is where there's a lot of new homeless coming into the system, and a lot of people not able to afford their rents because there was 3 months of a lapse that they didn't have to pay rent and didn't have the money to pay rent. So now we have a huge amount. There's in Connecticut right now, when you're homeless or on the verge of homelessness, you call 211. It's a uniform collaborative system called the Coordinated Access Network. And that's how we receive our clients, through that system. But I have been working with that network for almost 20 years in different ways. And it's the first time in many, many years we've seen so many people coming into the system. And it's alarming, and we're trying to figure out different things. Like we have within our agency another program called Rapid Rehousing, where we have a stock of apartments and we rapidly rehouse people. And we're trying to be as creative as possible now, because the traditional way of one person at a time going into an apartment is not as easy as it used to be. So now we're matching people up like roommates. It kind of reminded me of when I came from Ireland in the beginning. I lived with 8 girls, and it was a crazy house, but we all were working and trying to pay the rent together. And I think that we have to be creative with our clients and kind of match people up and help them get jobs and figure out how you might have a pull-out couch. Sorry? You might have to have a pull-out couch or whatever, but whatever it takes to get you out of homelessness and get back, make some more money and get on. And the other side of it is the lack of employment, because a lot of the people that we serve work in, service industry and different jobs, and there's not as much jobs now. And now that the unemployment has run out through the PPP program, we're finding people are really struggling. So there's a lot of factors that leaves me very uneasy for the future. And I'm hoping that we won't have this COVID come back. But we had 380 people in shelter throughout the state of Connecticut. And a lot of those people are moving into housing options through creative solutions. But we still have, now the new people that will be coming back to Gillespie are new to us, new to the system. But we don't have enough beds to manage everybody. And then there's, later on in the year, we call it the overflow. When people come in, we have extra beds, people lie on the couches, the chairs, whatever, and we have cots. People lie on. So we're not going to be able to do that in the volume that we did in the past. In us, as Homes with Hope, or any of our partners and collaborative partners in the community, this is going to be a big issue. So lots of things for us to work on going forward and think about to keep everybody safe and sheltered.
Helen, did I understand you to say that one of the consequences of navigating the pandemic is that you've moved more people into permanent supportive housing? Is that?
That's right.
So that
we were able to get some state money for rapid rehousing, and so that money is set aside for only. It used to be for 2 to 3 months, and it would supply security deposit. There's a security deposit program, but you can get security deposit first and last month's rent. But we, through advocacy throughout the state, we were able to get some more money in through the CARES Act and different forms of government money to support people to move for a year. If needed, we will be able to support people. It's not the kind of rents that we normally have in fair market rent. It's doubling up people into apartments and being creative. So I feel confident that that's a great solution for people that have been in the 380 people that throughout the state that have been in shelters. But the problem is we still have a lot of other people that's coming into the system. And we're advocating with, on the bigger picture, with the legislation and with the government agencies for more money to come for shelter, for Section 8 vouchers and for project-based vouchers, and more bricks and mortar money for supportive housing. So as you will hear, and in Westport, there's some talks about affordable housing, and a complex down, not sure the address, but it's down behind Walgreens, and it's part of Department of
off the Post Road behind Walgreens.
Yeah, thank you, John. Well, that complex, a lot of people are advocating for some affordable housing, and affordable housing is a little bit different than supportive housing, which I work with. Affordable housing is for like firemen, police officers, teachers. Housing is very expensive in Westport, and just to make it affordable to our children and people that can't afford to live here, that work here. So that's one of the efforts. But as part of that system, we're trying to also put some supportive housing in those affordable housing complexes to allow the less people with less income to also be able to scattered into these complexes. So there's a lot going on around housing, and I'm happy to be part of the movement and part of the work through that is being done. And Homes with Hope is very active in the community around all different solutions to support housing.
So for those of you who might like to continue to follow the efforts to increase affordable housing in Westport, Danielle Dobin is currently the chair of P&Z for the town of Westport and is an active advocate for affordable housing, including the project that Helen just alluded to. There are a couple of opportunities to learn more and engage in that conversation later this summer, and she's been sharing info with me, which I will pass along to you. But I also wanted to ask Helen, given what you just noted whether there are any whether there is anything going on at the State House where calls from Westport residents to encourage passage of a particular piece of legislation would be helpful.
Yeah, we're moving into the legislative session now, and there was a delay all round. But as I see some bills that are being passed right now, there's nothing on the radar that we can make the calls about. But as we see calls for action, I will send them to, I would love that, Alison, if you could share them with your congregation, because it's really important to be part of any change that needs to get made. And sometimes, as I'm sure many of you have worked with the lobbying building, that a lot of these things get passed in the middle of the night when there's not, sometimes if things are not kept to advocates working with them, things get passed and you never know how that got through. So we have to really be watching the legislation around housing and supportive and affordable housing all the time.
Joanne.
Has the P&Z been able to get the state to release that land for affordable housing? Because I know that's where it was when I spoke to her a while ago. Is that land now available?
No, there's still, Danielle is working with the Department of Housing, and that's Department of Transportation. And there's some conversations happening, but at this point, it has not been turned over. And that you're right, Joanne, is it?
Yes.
Joanne, that's a very important part. What's happening right now is Department of Transportation at this point hasn't transferred it over or talked about how that can happen.
But Joanne, to your question, you should know that Helen coordinated a meeting that was held several weeks ago, where Helen was able to get the director of public housing for the state of Connecticut came to Westport and met with Jim Marpy, and I think Danielle Doman was present, and there were several other town officials were there. So I think there was a lot of goodwill, if you will, that people had a better understanding, and I think it may go a long way towards making that program and that land eventually become available.
So that's very encouraging. I guess one thing that I'm sure you must be thinking about is that this will take time, and it sounds like the need is more immediate. We were talking a few years before we could get the land and then get it approved and the P&Z and then get it built.
Yeah.
You're right, but we have to look at the long-term goals and short-term goals. So we're plugging along with making sure we're looking at our vision for the future as well as short-term. And we also have hired, as a collaborative effort, some apartment searchers who are looking for apartments, and we're matching them up at matching meetings to our people in our housing our hotels and shelters. So on short term, we're doing that kind of thing, but in order for long term, we definitely need these affordable and supportive housing units to be created in order to get the backload taken care of for the future.
How many units of supportive housing do you hope to see occur in that affordable housing complex?
You know what, I can't remember how many units were proposed for there, but I can get back to you with the whole, I can send that to you, Alison, to send out if anybody is interested in the whole, there's a whole blurb on it, and I can get it out to Alison for anybody that's interested.
That would be great. We can do some updating. And in the category of short term, as we've talked about, long term. Well, first, if Helen, I imagine that you have contact information for the United Methodist Church and the Reverend Heather Sinclair, but I'm guessing that she would be glad to receive the things that you are sending to me as well. So if you would, and if you don't have contact info for her, I'm happy to pass that along offline. In the category of short-term support, I've just posted in our chat a reminder that while our building is closed, our co-chair of the mission board, Michelle Daria, has graciously made her driveway available for food collections at 96 Myrtle Avenue, which is just down around the corner from the church. And I know that Homes with Hope continues to receive food donations. Do you want to comment at all about the pantry and its status these days, Helen? And then we will wrap up after that.
Okay, so at the moment, we had a very, very successful food drive, and we were able to, as a result of that, instead of giving 1 bag of groceries to everybody, we were given 2 bags of groceries, and as people need more, we had not limited food. And we also bought a freezer and have frozen food in the freezer for people that come to the community kitchen at night that need extra food to take home. So we have a few different ways, apart from the food, the dried food. We also have a freezer with that we can take in some frozen meals. It's a little bit trickier because it has to be dropped directly to Gillespie. But at this time, there's always a need for food. There's a list of food on our website, and I can send that over to you as well, Alison. As we get food, it goes out pretty fast. At this time, we have probably more than half our shelves are filled, so we're not in bad shape, but we always are welcome food, because as we get it, we can up the amount of food we give out. And people have been very, very generous, and I thank you all for that. It's really important that nobody's hungry.
Thank you, Helen. So a couple of things that we've added to the chat. The first thing I posted is the website to Homes with Hope, which is hwhct.org. You will see a donate button on the front page. A reminder, as I lifted up last week, that normally during the summer we're gathering for worship on the beach with our colleagues at 4 other congregations plus Saugatuck Church, and the offerings collected throughout the summer have then been shared with mission partners, one of which is Homes with Hope. And so Homes with Hope in recent years has received, I had the number last week, I think it's about $2,700 to $3,000 a summer from those offerings, which they will not be receiving because we are not currently gathering on the beach. And so I commend to you the good work of Homes with Hope. If you go to their website, you will see a donate button right on the front page, and you might contemplate whether you are normally a beach worshiper. Think about what you might have given to the offering if you were worshiping on the beach this summer, and consider making a direct gift to Homes with Hope to continue to support their work. Craig has also, can you post that publicly, Craig? Craig is also going to post a page from our website that has the list of food items that you're invited to donate to Homes with Hope. There it is.
Thank you, Craig.
And so if you're curious about what items are most helpful, you can take a look there, and again, make donations that can be dropped off at the home of Michelle Daria. Her address is also posted there. And of course, we continue to hold Homes with Hope and all of your clients in our prayers as we gather. Typically these days, when we celebrate communion on the first Sunday, we also include a word of blessing for the food that we are collecting and sending to Homes with Hope. So if you are making a food donation, you might consider that part of your sacramental practice. It might be your way of remembering that we are all one body, whenever we gather at table, wherever those tables are. And while we can't gather around the communion table in the sanctuary, you can nonetheless find ways to remember those connections that we have with each other. Helen, you've been so generous with your time and your sharing, and even more generous with your heart and energy as you've done this good work in our community. I would do one quick look to see if there's any question that must be answered before we sign off. Otherwise, I'm going to invite Helen to offer any last word that you might have. Okay, go ahead, Helen.
Okay, lastly, I'd just like to invite, if any of you are coming out again, I would like to invite you to Gillespie to see the repurposed Gillespie. Take it, Alison, you can feel free to send out my cell phone number. I would be delighted to welcome any of you to see the changes that we have made to make it safe for everybody coming back. And we're proposing that the new people will be coming back to our Gillespie and Hoskins place on the first week of August. So if any of you before that would like to come, there's nobody in the room, so it'll be a private tour to see. And I'd love to meet you personally if any of you would like that. Obviously, I'll have a mask on, I'll stay 6 foot away, but I would welcome any of you to visit Homes with Hope and see the work that we are doing.
I had the privilege of getting that tour last week, and it's really, they've done a remarkable job at adapting to the times. So I encourage you to take Helen up on her invitation.
Alison, you'll have to come back because the repurposing furniture came since you were there. So
All
it's looking really nice now. It's lovely.
All right, well, we will check that out. Reminder that we have recorded this conversation. So if you want to check back on some of the details or share it with other members and friends, we will post this video shortly to YouTube. Give us a day or two to get it up. And we'll let you know on Facebook when it is available for sharing. And an invitation to everyone to join us again next week for our Bring Your Own Coffee Fellowship Hour. Bob Mitchell will be your host, and we're delighted to welcome Pivot Ministries next week to share some of their stories. So please mark your calendar and spread the word, and we'll have another good conversation then. Thank you to everybody, and I may pop in next week. It's hard to resist hearing what's going on with our mission partners, but I am headed out on vacation for a few weeks. So blessings to all of you. Be well, and I look forward to seeing you when I see you. And thank you, Helen, and thanks to Skip and Heather Sinclair and all of the rest of the folks, Don and Cindy and our friends over at the United Methodist Church for joining us this morning. It's always good to share this space. So be well, everybody. And
Bye.